The ancient principle of the Shemitah goes back 3,000 years to the time of Moses, but a rabbi from New Jersey is warning Americans to pull out their Bibles and take note. The year of the Shemitah, also called the Sabbath year, begins sundown Wednesday. Most likely by the time you hear this voiceover, the Shemitah, also called the Sabbath year, will have already begun. It begins with the start of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and continues through September the 13th, 2015. It could hold severe consequences for the future of the United States of America, warns Messianic Rabbi Jonathan Cahn. Cahn has authored a new book that zeroes in like a laser beam on the little-known biblical passage of Leviticus chapter 25, verses 1 through 10. It contains what seems like a benign rule of Sabbath rest for farmers, yet Cahn believes there is a lesson for today's America. The principle of the Shemitah is alive and well. Ignore it at your own peril. His book, which is called The Mystery of the Shemitah, explains how the Sabbath is not just a day of the week. For ancient Israel, there is also a Sabbath year, which fell once every 7 years on the Hebrew calendar. Millions across the planet are now paying serious attention to the Shemitah, and this is the year that we are at right now. Every 7th year, the land was to lay fallow and rest. At the end of that year, precisely Elul 29 on the Hebrew calendar, all financial debts and accounts were released. The slate was wiped clean, paving the way for a fresh start. Many ultra-Orthodox in Israel still honor this biblical rule today. Now you may be asking, what relevance does an obscure Leviticus law have for a modern-day superpower like America? Well, plenty, says Cahn, and you don't have to be a farmer to feel its effects. Cahn says, Israel is the nation that was under the command, but then the Shemitah becomes a prophetic sign which can apply to everyone, everywhere. He continues, the Shemitah is beginning this month, very shortly. And as I am speaking right now, I'm looking at the window this Wednesday, September the 24th, and the sun is going down, which means the Shemitah is beginning. While the rules for farming may no longer apply, the broader principle of the 7-year cycle still holds the secret of how God deals with nations in terms of blessings and judgment. It is possible that financial crashes, the rise and fall of nations, even empires, can occur within the pattern of 7-year cycles. The judgments of nations begin with clear warnings, which tend to come in a series of shakings or increasing catastrophic events. They often strike at the core of a nation's financial wealth or provision. In ancient Israel, that was the family farm. In America, it's Wall Street. Hence the dramatic stock market crashes, one more severe than the next. In 2001 and 2008, these were both Shemitah years. Now comes the next Shemitah, starting September the 24th, which is today, 2014, and continuing for the next 12 months to September 2015. Here's the catch. You're probably thinking, well, we're talking about Wall Street, right? No, the series of judgments aren't just restricted to Wall Street. Jonathan Cahn's book that I was just speaking of is chock full of examples of market collapses, wars won and lost, even the fall of the Twin Towers, in lockstep with the patterns of Shemitah. The Shemitah, which is literally translated as a release or shaking, was meant to be a blessing for God's people, but as the people fell away from God, the Shemitah manifested as judgment. The mystery has been behind the collapsing of Wall Street for our entire lifetime. It has pinpointed literally the collapse of our country down to the days, hours, and seconds. We're coming to one right now, and it has always marked a gigantic, massive change in the plans of God for the nations. The key to unlocking end-time prophecy could also be linked to Shemitah. Jonathan Cahn says, I was not planning on doing another book for a while, but this is so big it literally is going to affect every part of our lives. Jonathan Cahn's first book, which was called The Harbinger, came out in 2011 and also warned of impending judgment on America if it did not turn back to God. When ancient Israel turned away from God, started worshiping idols, and stopped keeping the Sabbath year, the blessings of Shemitah turned to judgment. In 586 BC, the nation was judged, and it was literally wiped away. They were taken to Babylon into captivity for 70 years. Well, God said the reason was that for all the Shemitahs you broke, now the land will rest for all the years it did not rest. The Shemitah literally becomes something that not only wipes away accounts, it wipes away nations. Now, for the judgment to happen, the Babylonian Empire had to rise. As one superpower falls in Israel, another one rises in Babylon to take its place. Jonathan Cahn believes America could devolve into the same kind of global has-been. He sees the historic stock market crashes in 2001 and 2008 as a type of God-given wake-up call, as a warning signs of impending judgment. Now, neither one of those crashes seemed to get the nation's attention, as we know, in any sort of spiritual way. So we may expect to see more warnings or shakings ahead. These tremors are more likely to occur at the end of a Shemitah year. The new Shemitah year, which begins at Rosh Hashanah Wednesday night, ends on September the 13th, 2015, which is next year. In 2001, the greatest financial crash in American history to that point happened on Elul 29, the last day of the Shemitah year. That record lasted for 7 years, only to be topped by the crash of 2008, I think we can all remember, which struck on the exact same day on the Hebrew calendar, Elul 29. It happens on the exact same biblical day that God gives Elul 29 to wipe away the accounts of a nation. The two greatest crashes in American history happened 7 years apart, down to the day, the hour, and the minute, and the second. I mean, it's so precise, and we're headed to another one. The nation, as Jonathan Cahn points out in the Harbinger book that he wrote, was dedicated to God at the inauguration of George Washington in 1789. And the blessings followed the nation for more than 100 years, except for a brief but terrible period of turmoil, division, and death during the Civil War. By 1917, at the end of World War I, America began its meteoric rise to global superpower status. Now let's take into account that 1917 was a Shemitah year, which shifted history. Then you come to 1945, another Shemitah year, and World War II. By the end of that war, America sat alone atop of the world order. The blessings continued throughout the 1950s and into the 1960s, but that's when things started going awry. Prayer was removed from public schools, and God was removed from the public square. Abortion became legal in 1973. When you get another Shemitah in 1973, you have the beginning of the fall of America. Abortion gets legalized, the financial world collapses. We lose our first war, Vietnam, on the same day that we won World War II on the other Shemitah. And then you get to 2001. And when you get to September, that's the peak of the Shemitah. And that, as you may recall, is when 9/11 happened. Now, the word Shemitah can also be interpreted as collapse. And Jonathan Cahn says, you have not only a collapse of markets, but a collapse of towers, the symbol of American strength. The warning is, if America doesn't turn back to God, its blessings, which come from God, will be removed from the land. So as Jonathan Cahn stands in the here and now, in 2014, as the author of a book claiming to have a prophetic warning, he often gets asked, where are we now? How much time does America have left to repent and turn back to God, to end its defiance and acknowledge God as the source of its blessings? It's a question he is reluctant to answer. This is his answer. I'm not setting dates, even though in the book I give dates. God doesn't need to do it according to his schedule. Now, this is what Jonathan Cahn told the Christian Broadcast Network in an interview. Now, he continues, but I believe we have to be aware. We need to be prepared. We're coming up on one. And that is to say, we're coming up on another Shemitah. And like I say, as I'm speaking right now, the sun continues to go down this Wednesday, September the 24th, which is the beginning of a Shemitah year. If the pattern continues, the end of the Shemitah year will bring some kind of climactic shaking or shift in world history. At least that is how it happened with the last two Shemitahs. Now Jonathan Cahn says regardless of when it happens, a great shaking is coming to America. I believe it will affect the economy, it will affect the financial realm. He also says, I believe it will be greater than those realms, just like 9/11 was. So I believe we need to be ready. I believe a shaking is coming, because without a shaking, America is not coming back to God. I believe this has to be. It doesn't have to happen this time, but I would be aware of it. That's one of those reasons why I normally don't give dates, but I did. We need to get ready. Now, most people want to be saved. They want safety. Now let's look at the Hebrew word for safety, or salvation as it is, and that's Yeshua. And Yeshua is Jesus. So the only true way to be safe is to cling to Jesus Christ. That is to say, live for Jesus Christ, walk in the Spirit, pray in the Spirit, get your life right. Anything that is not God, get out. Anything that needs to be, get in. So we need to be ready, because everything that can be shaken will be shaken.